Trade Genius.
All right, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin. It, like Litecoin, has popped to the upside, so we're going to take a look at that. First, guys, here's another example of a trade we took in the room. This is on Wabi. Really quick trade on this one for a quick 7.85%. So this is in addition to the binary options and the stock and ETF stuff we do. So we also have the crypto entries. So if you guys are interested in getting into the room with us, head over to tradelikeagenius.com, and we're continuing the special one keyword code, coupon code for 60% off non-bundled items. So if you want to join us in the room, Signal Services, cryptocurrencies, and you can get in using that code, and that will give you 60% off the annual rate of $4.99 a year. So they don't usually do that. Very cheap way to get in there and get those signals with us. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin broke out of the descending wedge. Remember, we had talked about that in our last Bitcoin video. Broke out nicely, came up, nearly tagged this resistance level I had highlighted here at 37.25 approximately, and is since pulling back. Now, what we would like to see on the weekend is continued buying. That would kind of tip us off that Asia's back, but we haven't quite seen that yet. And so I'm going to talk about what we think might be shaping up. Obviously, what we don't want to see is where we get into the situation of, especially like on this 4-hour chart, this is very typical. After a big surge up, we get a lot of short squeeze happening, like on the leveraged exchanges, which I wanted to talk about a little bit. The leveraged exchanges like BitMEX, the liquidity is a lot less than what it used to be. So these types of moves contribute to that Bart shape, you know, Bart Simpson's head. So you get this move up, sideways chop. What we don't want to see is where we have chop, 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 and then another thrust down, breaking all these support levels here, and then you're back down to where you started in this zone. That being said, what can happen is that we could have a retest, although wouldn't be ideal. Sometimes what will happen is you can retest the area of where you broke out at. The current levels, though, that we're looking at is this pullback level at 35.70 approximately and 34.65 approximately. So those are two levels that we're looking at. We did break above the 200 period moving average on the 4-hour, which is good. Last time we did that, we actually saw some sustained price action higher. As we see back over here, waiting for this to load, but we see that back here at we broke up, and that's where we actually hit the upper trend line that's been capping this move. So we talked about last week that we've been waiting kind of for an opportunity to see where we could actually attack these upper trend lines. So this is the current upper trend line in play. That's going to take us to approximately 3,800 level, and that's a level I expect some more resistance in selling. And then ultimately, guys, we talk about the big upper trend line, which is up here, and that's going to take us well over 4,000. I do think that it's more than likely we probably do see a cycle up to those levels, although that would not signify the all clear, but that would set up for what we would need to see as a set of higher highs and higher lows. And what I mean by that is on the daily, okay, let's take a look now. We need to see higher highs and higher lows. And so what that means is what we want to see is this previous high here, these highs here, we need to see a move up now higher than those previous highs. And so that means this move ultimately, let's say macro picture, takes us to that big trend line, okay? That's going to take out these prior highs of 42.40 approximately, and then the previous one above that was 44.14, okay? So really what we'd want to see is the break of those and get up to this trend line currently at 4,500. When we see that, we then want to see a higher low hold, which means we pull back, for example, to one of these support levels. Let's just say, for example, 37.25, okay? We want to see that hold. Then what we want to see is this price action, might meander, but ultimately we want to see it break back above this level wherever this high was. So if, say, we put in a high at 4,500, we want to see that level break out. Okay, now we have market structure in place that really amplifies the probabilities of this low down here that we saw in December holds. So that low of 31.28, high probability at that point that becomes the bottom. So that's what I'm looking at macro, guys, for the market structure to change. Otherwise, we're just going to really see more of the same as far as pops getting shorted. Again, though, this market structure here, this did not move down. This did not take out these lows. These areas and zones that we have highlighted on our videos for Bitcoin updates have held. I actually thought we'd probably see a little bit more of a test on the downside on this wedge before the breakout, but that didn't happen. And then we came up and ran into this lower moving average that we have, our 65 period weighted moving average, hit that, overshot it, and pulling back around it. Now, so currently, again, guys, going down, I'm just going to go down to the 4-hour chart, and what we're going to look at is the pullback levels. Again, you know, being that a lot of these moves get followed up by a subsequent large move down, as you can see over here, guys, move down, chop, 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 4-hour, move up, chop, 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 roll over, chop, 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 spike up. So there isn't like been a real organic, like we saw in the bull market. Typically you'd see like some nice volatility move and then boom, start moving higher. Everything right now is pointing to a pullback. I think you're going to see, if this is very strong, this 35.70 level would hold and we would break higher toward this trend line of 38.46. That would be a decent swing trade. Otherwise, guys, I think you're going to see a lot of people looking for this 34.73 level, but it might not get tagged exactly. And if my hunch is right, we could break through that, come down, actually stop short of that level a little bit, and then break higher. But I do think this upper trend line is in play at 38.50, around there. So on up to 38.75, somewhere in that vicinity. So I think that's what's in play. What would invalidate all of that would be breaking back down through the 34.65 level on volume and a big BART move back down. Okay. But being that we've made this move up, and typically what we've done is come up and retest these trend lines, I'm leaning toward this actually getting touched, this level here at 38.50, being that these pullbacks hold. Okay, so that would be my inclination at this point going forward. So anyway, that's where it's looking at, or that's what it's looking at, will be shaping up at this point with Bitcoin. Again, decent breakout. The wedge measured move, guys, we talked about, you know, that's going to take us, again, and we can look at that here, going to take us, so what we do is we measure the wedge, move it over, oops, grab the wedge, move it to the point of breakout. Ultimately, that's telling us we're going to get up there to 37.45 approximately. We got close to that, 37.11, okay? But that would complete the measured move out of the wedge. You might say that that already kind of happened and now we're taking a breather. But the risk, again, would be another BART move down out of the consolidation that we have here. And people most likely are probably gearing up for that short. So there is the opportunity where this starts to go, doesn't quite actually happen, and then you get another short squeeze up to this trend line up here. So I think that's probably going to happen before this upside move is all said and done. When we get up to this trend line up here, we'll take a look at the levels at that point and give you guys an update. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.
Trade Genius.